of other passionate professionals, they provide our customers with expert care, keeping their operations running smoothly, safely, and at peak performance. We maximize business resiliency. Over 1 million critical sites and facilities around the world trust our services team and digital technologies that focus on increasing asset reliability, improve total cost of ownership, and drive digital transformation. From energy and sustainability consulting to optimizing the life cycle of your operational systems, we have worldwide services to meet your business needs. Are you ready to start your services partnership?
Welcome everyone to the LinkedIn Live event today. We're talking about services in the age of IDC. I am Jennifer Cooke, analyst at IDC. IDC is a global research organization that has been around for 50 years, really since the mainframe was born. I've been with IDC for 28 of those years, following technology that is transforming business processes, customer experiences, and all the complexity that goes along with that. In all the years that I've been with IDC, technology vendors have talked about improving operations, making them more efficient, building resilient businesses, and shifting to digital-first operations. It's had a few names over the years. Today, we talk about it in terms of digital transformation, which seemed like a buzzword until the global pandemic hit. And then it showed everyone very clearly just how digital technologies were helping build the foundation upon which businesses could not only survive, but thrive in difficult times. There are many examples of how organizations that were quickly able to transition to connecting with customers remotely, monitoring and managing data centers from afar, deploying new applications and workloads from the comfort of their living room. Those organizations were far more equipped to operate and survive throughout the pandemic. IDC has conducted research throughout the past year, every 2 weeks, to understand what challenges organizations have faced, how it's changed across many areas of their business. And when we look at the results of this business tracked over every 2 weeks, it's very clear to us that the companies that had already been on a path to digital first, those who had already made investments in digital, were much more likely to have survived during the pandemic. They were also much more likely to return to a phase of growth more quickly. In our research, when we segment out those who are digital leaders from those who are at the very early stages of digital maturity, the leaders were 34% more likely to have returned to growth. Data centers, connectivity, and digital-first operations were relied upon to ensure continuous operations. And while there's consensus that digital transformation is necessary, getting there often remains very difficult. The part of my job as an analyst that I'm really passionate about is hearing stories about how organizations improve, what they did to get there. And ironically, the most common problem has nothing to do with technology. It has to do with people and skills. Companies, I'm sure many of you are familiar with this, they have different silos of power that aren't always aligned. They need to find a common goal and strategy. And sometimes it takes a neutral third party, such as a service partner, to accomplish this, to understand your unique business needs. Changing skill sets are another reason outside experts are needed. Finding the right people, the right skills, and all the locations needed is increasingly difficult. And when we surveyed thousands of organizations, this is what stands out as being common threads of difficulty or barriers to transformation: the right skills, the right people. So with this said, we would like this session today to be very open dialogue. I'd love to get feedback from you, the audience, on the challenges that you face on the digital transformation journey, or if you've been successful, tell us how you did it. And at the end of our session today, what I'd like to leave you with is a better understanding of how the right services partner can help you tackle the demands on your operations. In the meantime, while you're sharing your thoughts with us via the chat panel, I'd like to introduce our featured guest, Sumit Mukhija, CEO of ST Telemedia. And Sumit is no stranger to challenges. He has led critical projects for some of the world's biggest technology platforms. Sumit has held leadership positions at industry powerhouses such as Cisco, Microsoft, Brocade, Tata Communications. In his almost 30 years of solving business and technical problems, he has gained a broad base of experience. And today he's using this experience to shape the strategy of India's largest communications provider. This is no small feat, and I'm excited to learn from Sumit today. Also joining us to share his experience and knowledge is Frederic Godemel, Executive Vice President for Power Systems at Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric has been named the world's most sustainable company in a prestigious list compiled by Corporate Knights. Frederic works with customers around the world, helping them develop advanced critical infrastructure. He has a unique position of having worked with many organizations to help them transform their operations to become more automated, efficient, and digitized. It's through this lens of seeing many different problems in many different settings that Frederic can share his knowledge of how to create more sustainable and efficient infrastructure. So now I'd like to comment or I'd like to see what you have said in the chat panel about achieving, overcoming barriers to digital transformation. So I'd like to, again, welcome you to put your comments in here to see if they line up with what we are seeing in our own research. So while you're doing that, I would like to hand over to Sumit. And Sumit, if you could tell us more about yourself, your role at STT, and specifically, if you could talk to us about how IoT is being used in your data centers.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer, and a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. ST Telemedia Global Data Centers is headquartered in Singapore and is one of the fastest growing data center services providers globally. The company has over 130 odd data centers across key business markets, including Singapore, the UK, India, China, Thailand, Korea, and Indonesia. STT GDC India, which is what I represent, is the largest co-location services provider by revenue in India, and we manage 19 facilities across 9 major cities, totaling to more than 150 megawatts of critical IT load. So the nature of our business, Jennifer, is inherently such that it requires us to adopt digital both in our internal IT requirements, our internal IT systems, marketing, financial accounting, reporting, customer outreach, as well as for our business and operations support systems. So for the discussion today, let me focus on the latter and share our experience and learnings around these areas. Let me start with the barriers since you asked. So the first and foremost barrier is the understanding of what digital is and what transformation means to a business. So very often than not, the initiatives related to digital transformation are very unconcerted. There are siloed approaches both by customers and service providers. So this therefore requires all stakeholders to be on the same page as to what digital is and what does digital transformation mean to the business, and especially in the context of data centers that we're talking about today. So it's important to be clear upfront that digital is not a product or a service that one can buy off the shelf or from a menu. It is a framework which is based on amalgamation of cloud, social, mobility, analytics, very well supported by artificial intelligence, data collection devices, and even, and in fact, increasingly importantly, skilled people who can make sense of all this processed and analyzed data as well. So it is also a function of one's stated objectives. So do you want to improve the reliability and efficiency of your shop floor or data center facilities? Do you want to increase the customer outreach or satisfaction levels? Do you intend to expand your services portfolio using digital means? Or do you have any specific stated problem which you're trying to find a solution for? So more often than not, and surely in our case, it is a combination of all or most of these. The second big barrier is the ownership itself. Who does what? So you see, data centers have three major components. The first and foremost, and the most under talked about perhaps, is the underlying infrastructure, the buildings, the power, the cooling, the fire suppression system, security, and the corresponding element management tools, systems, and the security and the network operation centers. The second major component is the active components like the servers, the storage, the network infrastructure, and finally the applications. So digital transformation in the data centers is therefore a mutual responsibility of the DC service providers, the IT system integrators, and the end customers alike. So all these stakeholders have to do their respective bids for the tangible outcomes to come through. And finally, and again, a very common barrier though, is anything digital is perceived to be a security risk by the customers. And the highly connected systems that are used in facilities today indeed require a focus on cybersecurity. So our digital journey has been a very, very long and fruitful one. It spans across multiple systems, internal IT systems, business support systems, operations support systems, and even in sales, marketing, and digital outreach to our customers. Overall, it has helped us deliver very stringent uptime SLA requirements across our facilities and increase our agility in responding to the business requirements as well. And improvements in our customer satisfaction levels is reflected in our CSAT survey net promoter score, which improved by almost 10 points across our functions, all our functions in the past 1 year itself. Back to you, Jennifer.
Yeah, it's really an impressive operation that you're running, and certainly to improve customer satisfaction in light of everything else that you have to monitor. It's wonderful. I'd like to transition over to Frederic now. So as leader at Schneider Electric, I know that resilience is infused in everything that you do. You have a keen understanding that without power, our worlds become very small and limited. Focusing on resilience is more important than ever. In IDC's research, one topic that we cover is the impact of the facility on operational issues in the business. And year over year, we do this survey. In our 2020 survey, 38% of organizations reported having issues that cause downtime or loss of production. And as I mentioned, I've been doing this survey for many years. And to be honest, the answers are usually quite similar year over year. And I believe that this is because many organizations are still relying on very manual processes. And Frederic, I know that you have worked with many organizations to help them improve. And based on your work with these different organizations across many different industries, what happens when they transform from manual, hands-on processes and shift over to IoT and digital technologies?
Hey, thanks, Jennifer, and hello to all the colleagues who attend this conference from various places of the world. So at Schneider, we're I could say, a multi-local corporation that has started this journey of digital transformation on our core businesses, can be energy management or process automation. We started that 15 to 20 years ago with one line of sight, which is to look at the needs of our customer. One of our logo and our slogan is to say we want to be there to ensure that life is on. And obviously, we touch very quickly the topic of how digital can help customers to become more resilient, to get the best availability of their installations over time. I have to say that the last 12 months have been a big test, a worldwide test of the capacity of digital infrastructures to help resilience. What we saw during the time of the pandemics, when lockdowns happened in almost every country, was that the customers who had invested in digitally enabled operations, can be electrical or process operations, were the most able to sustain their operation during those time of lockdown where it was not easy to travel. They were the most able to support their team on sites where people had whatever type of issues. I can illustrate what we did with a few examples. One of the very common source of fire today is electricity. Electrical fire is one big source of disruption in many businesses. Thanks to digital, we are now able to monitor, predict, and act before the fire starts. Means with a set of sensors, analytics, remote control, we are able now to support many customers worldwide in looking at the risk of heating and predicting if the situation can become unstable. And we are able now to avoid fire risk. That's an example of what digital technology can make our customers able to access to. Another example is, of course, in the world of data center, and pretty happy to hear Sumit speaking about resilience for data center. We have now developed, thanks to digital, a set of analytics of life duration of batteries. Uptime is very critical in data centers, and we are now able, with a set of analytics, to help customers to manage better their install base of products. Of course, now what we start to do is to combine analytics from various sources. We have them on the power line, we have them on drives, we have them on PLCs, we have them on motors, and by combining those data, we're able to advise customers on an improved level of resilience. And what we have witnessed is that customers who have now invested in those technologies that are not a significant extra cost compared to the basic hardware on which they are operating, all the customers who have invested into that are now getting a set of benefits that allows them to operate their business with much more resilience, with leaner team that can be supported and have access to experts that are located in our experts bureau instantly. That means when they face an unknown situation, they can immediately access to our experts. We see the same set of data and we are able to advise them instantly. So that's a great progress in terms of resilience, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to bring up a comment. James from Australia brought up something really interesting. Digital transformation is harder to stress as important when a business is thriving. So what that says to me is that, you know, people rely on facilities and you don't have any appreciation for them until they go down. And that's something that we hear over and over again. You know, you're not appreciated, but you know, certainly as important. You don't want to have you know, disruptions happen that that affect your business. Another comment from an Australian listener, Christina, asking about how your technologies will support the world's climate change debate. And I know this is a topic very dear to Schneider Electric's heart. So we're going to pivot now, and that's a great transition point. You know, so we've spent some time talking about resilience and the importance of resilience. Closely related to resilience is sustainability. Being more sustainable has become table stakes in our world today. Investors, employees, future talents are all making decisions on which company to invest in, which company to work for, who to buy products from based on their ability to become a greener company. Sustainability means protecting the environment, the earth and her resources. Sustainability also means protecting and nurturing people and communities. And at IDC, we think of resilience on the one hand as the ability to survive through chaos or challenging events. Sustainability, on the other hand, is surviving for the long haul, using resources wisely and not depleting those resources. We need to be both of these. And the good news is that there's alignment between the two. We have seen companies that have made a concerted effort to become more resilient have also achieved the benefits of becoming more sustainable. And at IDC, we see customers, employees, investors asking for more proof of progress, not just talking about investments, but actually showing progress along these lines. And Frederic, I think you are uniquely qualified to comment on sustainability through your work at Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric has been recognized most recently by Corporate Knights as the world's most sustainable company. Your company leadership in all of its presentations clearly has put sustainability at the center of your entire strategy. So I'd like to ask you, what advice do you have for our listeners today on how they can harness the power of IoT and digital technologies to improve sustainability?
Well, Jennifer, I don't know if I'm uniquely positioned. I think we are all positioned in a place where we can do something for sustainability, right? Sustainability is a big topic and for sure a concern for all of us if we want to curve down the curve of CO2 emission and being still able to use energy, electricity, basically that is a greener source of energy that we know today, if we want to keep using electricity in a greener way. One path we did at Schneider was to implement first the solutions we developed in our own premises, can be factories, office building, and then of course work with our customers in data center, in oil and gas, in power and grid companies, to be able to implement those solutions and see how we can get benefits from them. After some years, what we can say is that thanks to digital, we are able now to monitor consumptions and model CO2 footprint of a given site or even of a given operation, basically using the same architecture as the one I described before for resilience. Means when you have instrumented, a few additional data points and measure can give you a pretty good and accurate view of your energy consumptions at various parts of your operation. So that is a journey we have taken, which is to be able to first measure the consumptions of some processes. The other things you can do that is based on pretty complex analytics is comparing consumption and usage, right? That means you can measure the current that is passing through given transformers and compare it with the consumption that you have at the devices, motors, and so on after the transformers. And then you detect losses. And when you have losses or inefficiency, you can start to enter into a program of reducing the losses, eventually starting to stop some processes when they are useless, right? And that's where you enter into the machine, which is a virtuous machine of permanently improving your usage of energy. So basically what we are able to do is pretty quickly now, thanks to digital, to have a picture of our energy consumption, identify losses, identify waste, and then permanently improve this wheel so that we are in a position to use only the energy that is needed for a given process. The last thing is basically favoring the use of energy produced by renewable. And you know that renewable is extremely intermittent. So what we are able to do now is basically supply some parts of the processes when basically renewables are working, and stop to supply to them when they don't need the energy during a period of time where renewables are not available. So here we are able to ensure that the use of energy made by a given process is maximized through renewable, which is a way to contribute to CO2 reduction. So that just a few examples on how digital technologies can help ourselves and then other companies to go into a journey of reducing CO2 emissions.
Great, really a good example of working smarter and not harder. Rohit made a good comment too. IoT is a major game changer in the upcoming years. You know, just the ability, you know, something that humans couldn't do on their own, leveraging data points to drive better decisions. Sumit, I know that you and your company have some pretty aggressive sustainability commitments. And if you could talk about what those commitments are and what your strategy is to put those in place. I'd like to hand over to you now.
Thanks, Jennifer. So firstly, I completely agree and echo your and Frederic's views as well. An increasing number of companies now see sustainability as a business enabler and not just a cost center, which is very, very heartening. Having said that, sustainability itself is a very, very vast topic. It's a very broad topic and spans across environmental, the social, and even governance and compliance frameworks. So STT GDC as a group is committed towards sustenance, and we recently announced our intent to go carbon neutral for all our facilities by 2030. Let me share some couple of very tangible examples of what we have been doing from India. Most of our facilities in India that we have built over the recent years are state of the art, highly efficient, highly automated, and capable of delivering even the most stringent SLA requirements. Having said that, we do have some legacy facilities that have been in operations for the last 10 to 15 years. So we assessed all of these legacy sites for their efficiency, replaced some of the aging and inefficient components with newer and more efficient systems, and we saw some immediate benefits and results which were very imminent. On an average, we have been able to improve efficiency of our legacy sites in India by a factor of almost 0.2 over the last 4 years. Now, this is huge by any means. Energy saved, as you know, is energy generated as well. So likewise, we also assessed some of our legacy sites for the levels of automation and the electrical distribution systems and the architecture used in there, and introduced additional systems and controls that helped minimize the human intervention during events like changeovers, etc. So that made and definitely helped us make our legacy facilities more resilient as well. And in all of these efforts, Schneider Electric in India has been a very, very important partner in this journey for us. On the environment side, more than a third of our current power consumption across our facilities in India comes from renewable sources like solar, wind, and a bit of hydro as well. Now, this is set to ramp up to more than 50% in the next couple of years itself. Ideally, we would want this to go all the way up to 100%, and we're working very closely with the power generation companies and the distribution companies, as well as the governments, through industry representations, and enable some policy changes that may be required to enable 100% green energy coming into our facilities. Between renewable energy and the PUE improvement that I touched upon earlier, we have been able to save more than 150,000 tons of carbon dioxide avoidance annually. And again, that is a feat that we are very proud of. We also monitor our water utilization efficiencies very closely. We use rainwater harvesting wherever it is feasible in our facilities, deployment of RO plants for using or reusing rather the blowdown water from the chillers. With these measures, we have been able to save almost 18.6 million liters of water annually, which roughly is equivalent to meeting the daily drinking needs and requirements of more than 3,000 odd households. Right? So, and an important aspect of ESG is also people. And there's a huge gap in the availability of skilled manpower required by mission critical industries like the data center, especially in countries like India. So in order to fill this gap and to increase the employability of the engineers and the technical students, STT GDC in India has partnered very closely with Schneider Electric in India to commission a center of excellence in Bangalore, which is focused at imparting hands-on data center operations learning experience to fresh graduates from technical training institutes in Bangalore and nearby areas. But this is first of a kind initiative in India, and definitely not something which is going to be confined to Bangalore. We are going to expand this with our partnerships to other cities as well. Back to you, Jennifer.
Yeah, thank you. And I think what's difficult to express is just the massive number of data points that are coming in making changes. And this is reflected in a couple of the comments that we've received here. I'd like to read a couple of those. One of them is talking about the fragmentation of the steps across the value chain with industries and having an increasing number of partners, each with different environments. How do we tackle this challenge to offer accurate and immediate digital service to customers? And I think this really speaks to, the complexity of everyone's working in a different environment and how to get it to all form into one message, and how do you learn from that? And I think what that says is that it often requires, it's not just the data, it requires people to make sense of that data. Related to that, there's a comment from Juan in Malaysia. One of the challenges in digital transformation is how to integrate the data from the various systems of IT and OT. And I know that, from working with other customers at IDC, that is a very painful process to go through. And a lot of times you need a service partner to help with that. And I think that's actually a really good transition, and I will, allow Frederic and Sumit to comment on that as well. But from my perspective, it really takes an outside service provider. Companies are prioritizing sustainability. You need to be resilient. How can an outside expert help? They bring deep expertise across industries. They've been in many different situations. They understand the unique needs of each industry. They have tried and true technologies that and best practices that they've learned from other companies that they can bring to your organization. They introduce new ways of doing things, and they save a company from having to try something new and possibly risk failure. Another way that they help is that they align an organization along a common purpose. We had talked about silos of power, which many companies are very siloed, and getting those groups and business units to work better together is something that often takes an outside organization, to come in as the mediator, to get everyone to agree on a common purpose and goal, and make investments and changes to reach those goals. So I'd like to encourage our audience to continue to put in some comments in the chat box here, and we'll continue to go to those. But I'd actually like to hand it over to Frederic right now, because that comment from Juan in Malaysia about how to integrate the data from IT and OT, what advice do you have for customers as they try to tackle that challenge?
Well, look, it's a great question. Our philosophy at Schneider since the beginning has been to work on open system and open standards. So because it does not exist installation in which all the parts are coming from a single source. So we need to be able to integrate data from various environments. We need to be able to link various sources of sensors, and basically sometimes and many times, by the way, installations are not digital because they have been installed 15 years ago. So we come with a generation of sensors that can instrument existing installations. All of them are based on open standard and can be connected, taking as well some data from the IT environment and putting all those data into a frame that allow to cross-check and analyze. And that's where the expertise of other companies that are in the same segment matters. And we have done at Schneider Electric, we have data scientists by segment so that we are able to know which data to look at, right? Getting data is one challenge in itself. And the second one is which data to look at, which are the right data to cross-check so that you ensure the right analysis and the right value to your customer. So I hope it answers the question. It's for us fundamental that we work on open standard so that we can associate other companies into this journey, because this journey is big and significant, and there is no way that it can be achieved by a single company only.
Yeah. Great observations. And I'd like to, this is a comment that I love from Mohammed in Oman. I hate the term digital transformation or because it gives the impression that it's like a caterpillar to butterfly moment. Like you receive some sort of code book and magically you transform an organization, which for anyone listening today that has gone through this, you know that it's not, it would be great if there was a magic wand that you could wave and magically transform into something beautiful, but often it's ugly and difficult, and it's always not as simple as it seems. So thank you, Mohammed, for that. Another comment is we must accept that there's a lot of challenges along the way. If we're not able to, let's see, today in this situation, if we are able to sustain well, there's a lot of discovery along the way on which our elders working from the beginning. Okay. Actually, that really speaks to people is at the heart of much of what we do. Up to this point, we've talked about using IoT and services to make our operations run better, more efficiently, resiliently, sustainably. It's something that we take for granted, but really cannot, is the physical safety of people. None of the business processes will mean anything if it puts people at risk. One of our recent surveys, May 2021, we surveyed facility managers. IDC asked organizations whether they had any incidents in the past year that resulted in injury or risk of injury to employees. 21%, more than 1 in 5 reported having these issues. So if you ask any CEO, this is completely unacceptable. We all know that accidents happen, but they can't. If you speak, especially any activity that involves humans, we're unpredictable creatures and we need to eliminate kind of that human error aspect of it. Schneider Electric, as I mentioned, has been recognized for progress in sustainability, but with its roots in manufacturing, it also has a deep commitment to safety. Frederic, I'd like to turn over to you. If you could let us know some ways that Schneider Electric is helping facilities not just become efficient and sustainable places, but more importantly, safer places.
Jennifer, maybe we should have started by safety, by the way, because this is probably the most important thing, safety of our people, all of us, right? And safety of people who work along process or electrical installations. That's absolutely critical, right? And that's our first mission, and that's basically where we have our roots at Schneider Electric, because our products are here to protect the safety of the people and the installations. If we go a bit along the journey of digitization, we went to realize that by instrumenting our product, by giving them digital capabilities, we have been able to improve the safety of our product, because thanks to digital, we can remote control, we can remote operate, I would say, all of our products, and basically being able to do that in a level of safety that is increased compared to the past. I can give you a few examples. All our products have now systems to operate remotely that are easily accessible to most of the people. They can be supported by remote operators and remote experts, so that we can advise people on the operations that they want to do. And in most of the digital features today, we have systems that prevent mistakes from operators with a single line of sight, which is improve the safety. So by instrumenting products, we went to realize that one part of our journey was around resilience, one part could be around sustainability, as we spoke before, but we never forget that the most basic things when you touch electrical installations especially is around safety. And we are pretty happy to see that thanks to digital, we are able to do, for example, safety audits remotely, to some of our customers. We recently audited a very big data center corporation on all their sites to be able to help them on the safety of their operations. So digital is a way to get things done. Even during time of lockdowns and pandemic, we have been able to maintain all our fundamental activities around safety. So a great topic as well that is improved and facilitated by digital.
Thank you, Frederic. Sumit, I'd like to ask you, as leading an organization, safety is obviously paramount to all of your operations as well. And could you share some insights for us on your approach to safety at this time?
Sure. So SDT GDC at a group level has been working on a safety first culture. So it's a very group level directive, and together with sustenance, it's a corporate direction for us. Let me touch upon the global customers and their expectations on safety as well, and then the things that we do as well. So global customers are increasingly pushing their partner ecosystem, like us, for example, to adhere to extremely stringent safety standards. The focus is obviously on high-risk activities such as working from heights, working with high voltages and high-pressure equipment. Data center service providers are now expected to share forecast of all the high-risk activities planned along with detailed mitigation plans and safety analysis of those works as well. They also mandate very detailed and regular reports, which include both leading and lagging indicators and matrices, as well as expect complete transparency in reporting of incidents, if any. To foster safety first culture and promote best practices amongst their partner ecosystem, global customers are more than willing than ever to even share best practices and case studies and learnings from their other sites with their other ecosystem partners and providers. So besides safety, security is also an extremely important topic for the global customers. As you're aware, data centers have always been very high on physical security, surveillance, with multiple layers of security, right from the actual building itself to all the way up to the data halls. There are multi-layers of physical security. Digitization, however, has brought the focus back on cybersecurity now. So some of the legacy facilities, whether it is shop floors or even some facilities of data centers, they have legacy control systems that may be seen as vulnerable from a security perspective. Further, large-scale cloud adoption and the corresponding customer base may be hunting ground for attacks like ransomware attacks. And finally, data centers, and especially these mission-critical facilities like hospitals, data centers, they are increasingly seen by states as assets of national importance. So clearly the emphasis here is to keep the control systems and the operational technology components technologically refreshed and updated always, and use proactive means like continuous monitoring via BMS rooms, security operations centers, conduct third-party penetration testing regularly and proactively to identify vulnerabilities, if any, and be able to correlate the incidents, if any, to prevent any large-scale attacks. Back to you, Jenny.
Thank you very much, Sumit. Absolutely, the focus on cybersecurity is something that can't be ignored either, and I think it's something that's on top of mind for many of our listeners today. I wanted to mention one more comment. Mahesh in India says, operating in silos is one of the biggest hurdles in achieving operational efficiency and the biggest reason leading to the ineffective implementation of digital solutions. And I think what this tells us, and this is something that I've heard from others as well, is it takes great leadership in order to bring those silos together, get everyone working on the same path. I think in addition to that, it also takes the right information, having everyone have access to the right information to make better decisions. This has been an active discussion. I'd like to thank everybody for all of their great comments today. it's been great to see this exchange, in live on LinkedIn. I have three takeaways, listening to Frederic, listening to Sumit, a couple of takeaways that I gathered today, and I hope that you will take away from this session. One of them is technology. Consider shifting to IoT and digital technologies to improve resilience. The result may just be a greater ability to also improve sustainability and, most importantly, safety of people. 2, lean on experts for their experience. Having the right partners can take your aspirations to real results. By tapping into the experience of a services partner that has experience from other customers, they can open your eyes to new ways to doing things and new technologies to accelerate your own transformation. And finally, look to the experts for their ability to get things done. Leadership and specific skill sets are the differentiating factors, and the right partner can build consensus and a common ground for an organization. With that, I would like you to thank you for joining us. I hope that you have found this a valuable use of your time, and many thanks to Frederic and Sumit for sharing their insights with us today.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.